George Soros. A name that conjures visions of immense wealth, bold speculation, and an unflinching intellect that reshaped global markets. A man who turned theory into fortune, curiosity into empire, and contrarian thinking into a way of life. Today, we dive into the life, lessons, and trading insights of one of the most extraordinary financial minds in modern history. George Soros was born György Schwartz in 1930 in Budapest, Hungary. His early life was shaped by turbulence. He witnessed the collapse of order during World War II, the rise of fascism, and the constant threat of persecution. These formative years forged a mind attuned to risk, uncertainty, and the shifting currents of human behavior. Survival, he would later say, teaches you to embrace probability, to understand that certainty is often an illusion. After the war, Soros emigrated to England in 1947, attending the London School of Economics. It was here that he studied under the philosopher Karl Popper, whose ideas would profoundly shape his worldview. Popper emphasized the open society, the value of critical thinking, and the acceptance of fallibility. Soros took these lessons to heart, not just philosophically, but practically. In his trading, he would embrace a mindset of continuous questioning, constantly testing his assumptions against reality. Soros moved to New York in 1956, beginning his career as a trader and analyst. His early years were not meteoric. He worked tirelessly, absorbing the mechanics of markets, learning to read not just the numbers, but the psychology behind them. He understood that markets were reflections of human behavior, emotional, often irrational, and occasionally self-reinforcing. But what separated Soros from the pack was his ability to synthesize philosophy with finance. He didn't just buy low and sell high. He asked deeper questions. Why does the market behave this way? Where is the fragility? Where is the opportunity? And perhaps most importantly, he learned to accept that he could be wrong, and that the cost of being wrong must be carefully managed. One of Soros's most revolutionary concepts is reflexivity. In traditional economic theory, markets are often assumed to trend toward equilibrium, a balance of supply and demand. Soros rejected this notion. He argued that markets are inherently self-referential. They influence the reality they attempt to measure. Prices affect perceptions, perceptions affect decisions, and decisions in turn affect prices. It's a feedback loop, a living system of cause and effect, often divorced from any fundamental truth. Understanding reflexivity allowed Soros to spot bubbles before they burst. He recognized the signs when sentiment diverged too far from reality. And he acted decisively, capitalizing on the market's inherent instability rather than relying on static models. Soros's philosophy was not just about speculation. It was about risk management. He famously said, "It's not whether you're right or wrong that's important, but how much money you make when you're right and how much you lose when you're wrong." This might sound simple, but few traders truly internalize it. Soros built his fortunes by cutting losses quickly, letting winners run, and never allowing ego to dictate action. He embraced mistakes as data, treating them not as failures, but as opportunities to refine his understanding. His most famous trade, the shorting of the British pound in 1992, was a masterclass in conviction and courage. Britain's membership in the European exchange rate mechanism had created a rigid peg, but Soros saw it as unsustainable. He analyzed the economic fundamentals, assessed market psychology, and placed a bet against the pound that would earn him over $1 billion in a single day. It was audacious, calculated, and emblematic of the Soros mindset. Question consensus, embrace uncertainty, and act decisively when the odds favor you. But Soros's genius was not reckless gambling. It was strategic opportunism. He always approached markets as an adaptive system, never fully predictable, yet offering patterns and clues for those who observe carefully. He would say, "I'm only rich because I know when I'm wrong. I basically have survived by recognizing my mistakes." To him, humility in the face of complexity was not weakness, it was a competitive advantage. Beyond trading, Soros is a thinker, a philanthropist, and a relentless student of human society. His open society foundations reflect the same principles he applied in markets: adaptability, scrutiny, and the willingness to challenge prevailing assumptions. Whether in finance or in social thought, Soros's life teaches a crucial lesson. Mastery requires intellectual courage, moral flexibility, and the willingness to engage with the world as it is, not as you wish it to be. So what can we learn from George Soros as traders, investors, and thinkers? Let's distill his approach into actionable insights. Embrace uncertainty. Markets are unpredictable. Accept that your knowledge is always partial. Your edge comes not from certainty, but from disciplined risk-taking when probabilities are in your favor. Understand reflexivity. Prices do not just reflect reality, they shape it. Sentiment can distort fundamentals. Learn to read these distortions, anticipate feedback loops, and exploit moments when perception diverges from reality. Cut losses, let winners run. Success is not measured by the number of correct trades, but by the asymmetry of outcomes. Small losses are a cost of learning, large wins are the reward of insight. Question consensus. The majority is often wrong, especially when driven by emotion or dogma. Don't follow the herd blindly, study it, understand it, and sometimes go against it. Learn from mistakes. Mistakes are the most valuable teachers. Soros would revise his positions constantly, refining his view as new information emerged. Adaptation is the hallmark of a survivor and a winner. Combine philosophy with practice. Soros' understanding of human behavior, ethics, and societal structures gave him an edge that spreadsheets alone cannot provide. Knowledge is power, but applied knowledge is invincible. Soros' life is also a testament to audacity. He reminds us that fortune favors those who are willing to think differently, act boldly, and embrace the chaos others fear. He shows that brilliance is not just in knowing the rules, but in seeing when they do not apply, and having the courage to act in those moments. He is not merely a trader. He is a philosopher of risk, a student of human fallibility, and a man unafraid to challenge the structures that surround him. Every action he took, whether in markets or philanthropy, was guided by a profound understanding of systems, both financial and social. He is a reminder that power, insight, and courage are inseparable, and that the greatest victories are reserved for those who observe deeply, act decisively, and never let fear dictate their choices. Soros also understood something most market participants never fully grasp. Time itself is a weapon. He was patient when patience was required, inactive when restraint offered the highest return, and explosively aggressive when conviction aligned with opportunity. He did not trade to be entertained. He traded to be right at scale. When conditions were wrong, he waited. When conditions were right, he pressed hard. This ability to oscillate between stillness and violence is rare, and it is one of the quiet engines behind his success. He treated capital not as something to be constantly deployed, but as ammunition to be preserved for moments of maximum asymmetry. This discipline, this refusal to act out of boredom or impulse, allowed him to survive decades in a profession that destroys the impatient. Soros understood that missing opportunities is painless compared to forcing them. What is often overlooked is how deeply personal this discipline was. Soros monitored his own psychology with the same rigor he applied to markets. He famously paid attention to physical discomfort, back pain, tension, unease as signals that his positions might be wrong. Where others dismissed emotion as noise, Soros treated it as information. He understood that markets move through human minds, and that his own mind was part of the system he was attempting to interpret. This self-awareness gave him an edge few could replicate. He was not seeking validation. He was seeking alignment between reality, perception, and position size. When alignment broke, he acted without sentimentality. Positions were abandoned without regret. Capital was reallocated without nostalgia. The past did not matter, only the next probabilistic edge. Soros also grasped the asymmetry of influence. Markets, like societies, are not democratic. A small number of actors acting with conviction at the right moment can move systems far more than the passive majority. He positioned himself to be one of those actors, not through noise or bravado, but through preparation, scale, and timing. When he moved, markets felt it. At a deeper level, Soros understood that belief itself is a market force. Expectations do not merely forecast outcomes, they help create them. Central banks, governments, and investors are all locked in a recursive dance of signaling and response. Soros learned to read this dance, to anticipate when confidence would tip into panic or optimism would metastasize into excess. He traded narratives as much as numbers, knowing that stories once believed by enough participants, become realities with price tags attached. He also accepted that no edge lasts forever. Strategies decay, environments shift. What worked yesterday can destroy you tomorrow. This is why Soros never clung to identity as a type of trader. He evolved, shedding methods and assumptions as easily as positions. Flexibility, not consistency, was his true constant. So if you take anything from the life of George Soros, let it be this. The world is complex, uncertain, and often irrational. Those who thrive are not the smartest, nor the strongest, nor the luckiest. They are the ones who see clearly, embrace risk, and act with unyielding discipline when opportunity presents itself. George Soros did not merely make money, he mastered the art of navigating uncertainty. He teaches us that wealth, wisdom, and influence are not accidents. They are forged through insight, courage, and the relentless pursuit of truth. Study him, learn from him, and perhaps one day you too can move through the chaos of the world with clarity, audacity, and power.